Welcome to First. I'm Nichelle Poston along with Mark Eichman and Shirley Min. Issues connected with teen pregnancy aren't always focused on one part of the issue. This week, a report on two programs that deal with different aspects of the issue.
Wilmington police are involved in a program they hope will help them avoid misunderstandings if they're ever on duty and have to deal with a visually impaired person.
And take 8 contemporary artists and the Biggs Museum, and it's a recipe for one amazing exhibit. That's later on First Experience. First, your public media news magazine starts now.
Sometimes dealing with the problem means dealing with different aspects of the issue. Take teen pregnancy for an example. The national teen pregnancy numbers are down over the last 2 decades. Although numbers fluctuate in states like Delaware, those connected with helping young girls know their work is ongoing. In this week's First Look, we'll take you inside 2 programs, one that remains dedicated to teenage mothers, the other a program working to keep preteens on the right path.
A daughter we're not going to let go of. A daughter we're going to wrestle to the ground with love to ensure that she gets everything she needs in order to be successful.
Inside this classroom, these girls are no longer referred to as students, but daughters.
You see, a daughter denotes relationship, where a student, well, that's somebody else's problem. That's not my concern.
The Delaware Adolescent Program Incorporated, known as DAPI, is dedicated to helping teenage mothers, a population often forgotten.
Teen pregnancy, while is not considered to be a sexy topic these days in comparison to some of the more popular topics like mental health or trauma care, it still is life impacting.
Dr. Doris Griffin leads the Newcastle County program. In 2016, DAPI served a total of 68 girls statewide, and even more could come through the doors this year since numbers tend to fluctuate. The challenge is identifying teenage mothers and properly placing them in programs such as DAPI.
You have to be very careful in looking at numbers, because in one case, if a pregnant teen also has a mental health issue or has a truancy issue or has some type of violent behavioral challenges, that doesn't necessarily make that the topic that's focused on. Teen pregnancy might not be the topic that's focused on.
As for the teens who are accounted for, they learn the necessary skills to succeed.
Good job.
We are not interested in raising statistics.
The same goes for the program Girls Can Do Anything, run by Chandra Pitts. However, she's committed to helping a different set of girls.
All right, so really quick, let's just do a big stretch up. Wide, open up your heart. There's a gap between knowledge and girls really just being empowered to think about their lives and make decisions for themselves. I think there's an expectation that girls are just going to follow in the path or follow the expectations of someone else.
These students are preteens and in need of a little guidance as well. The goal here is to strip definitions of beauty and what's socially acceptable.
We find that we have to first start with a conversation about self-love and self-esteem and the value that they hold in themselves, and the mission of our whole initiative, which is to redefine womanhood and what it means to be a girl.
And according to Pitts, it doesn't stop there.
We do encourage and teach girls how to be thoughtful, mindful, and really conscientious when they're making decisions.
Life decisions that 19-year-old Andrea Wisher believes she can help with as well. She's a volunteer that she says students can relate to.
I always love to help. I'm always willing to help. So if I can do anything to shape someone and not have someone go down the path that I went down, definitely.
Meanwhile, back inside DAPI, Dr. Griffin talks about funding. She says although the state is facing a financial challenge, her hope is that DAPI daughters will always be taken care of.
The one thing that we have to hold true to is the fact that we are here to make a difference in the lives of pregnant and parenting teen girls. So we are determined to turn over every rock, determined to knock on every door, and we are willing to go beyond the boundaries of the state of Delaware to get the help that we need, because we believe in the girls that we're teaching.
As for the young women at DAPI, here's some video from one of their most recent events. Many of the DAPI daughters came together for a nice breakfast on Tuesday where many were recognized. The goal was to also empower community members and get more people involved with DAPI.
So any success stories to come out of this?
Yes, Mark, actually there is. Arnita Corley is the perfect example of success. She came in as a student many years ago and now works there as a director, encouraging the young ladies. She's also much more than a role model. She can actually just speak from experience, basically.
And so what does DAPI do in terms of helping these girls prevent a second pregnancy?
Well, Dr. Griffin says it best. She says education is key. Take a look.
I believe the best form of contraception is teaching our students how they are going to be able to make money. I believe if they realize that their future, their financial future can be richer if they take care of the one child that they have while securing additional training, high school diploma, or college education, they will be able to go financially much farther, and then they can add to their family as they see fit once they have a solid footing.
Well, there you have it. This story truly reminds us a little push goes a long way, whether you've encountered a few hurdles or not, Mark.
All right, thanks, Nichelle, and you can definitely see the connections made through these programs. We'll have an online version available on newsworks.org/Delaware. And speaking of connections, the way police connect with citizens has been a hot topic in recent years. Police-involved shootings are often rooted in misunderstandings. The problem gets worse if an officer isn't aware that a person they're talking to might have a disability. Wilmington police are now training to deal with people who are blind or visually impaired. It's dangerous enough to cross a busy street full of traffic. Imagine how much more dangerous it would be if you couldn't see the cars. That's just one challenge someone who is blind or visually impaired may have to navigate. Recently, members of the Wilmington Police Department got to experience some of those challenges during a training session. Officers put on blindfolds and, with some help, tried to cross Walnut Street without being able to see.
Watch as a curve to your right.
The training comes after Jamira Carmona was concerned for her son Bryant's safety.
If no one sees him, you can't tell he's visually impaired. So my fear was that he wears a hat to shield from the sun, and sunglasses don't help him. So if he's being approached by an officer and he doesn't respond how they expect him to, he could be hurt because he is being defiant to one that doesn't know.
Well, I like to tell my story a lot, and I like to let people know how can they help me, or how can I let them know what to do when I need helping.
Teachers with the Delaware Division for the Visually Impaired helped officers understand how they can help Bryant and others like him.
You know, if I were to approach Bryant from the side, he may not see me. He might respond a little bit differently than somebody else. And that's what potentially could, cause a different reaction either from whoever or from Brian.
For these officers to understand, well, let's take a step back. If this person isn't responding, why I think, do they have a visual impairment? Do they have some sort of disability? Do they have hearing loss? What is going on? Maybe we should think about how we interact with people a little bit differently, and just giving that awareness to some of the officers here.
In addition to crossing the street blindfolded, officers also try to do simple tasks like opening and pouring a drink without being able to see.
Any key indicator that we can process from this learning, from this training today, to have our first responding, our frontline patrol division officers recognize a symbol of blindness or a symbol of some type of impairment. Absolutely, it's a win for us.
The training for officers is believed to be the first of its kind in Delaware. Other departments could soon see their officers walk in the shoes of someone who's visually impaired.
Because it's really scary as a person with a visual impairment if you're walking along and someone grabs you, or they grab your cane, or they touch your dog, or they come into your vision when you didn't know that they were there at all.
For Bryant's mother, training the police helps, but everyone can do their part to help those with disabilities.
Be kind to people. Be kind. And if someone does ask for help, just help. Just help out.
The teachers also explained to officers that those who are visually impaired might not always trust someone who claims to be an officer is actually legitimate, especially because they can easily be taken advantage of by crooks. But a simple thing like just feeling an officer's badge can help establish that legitimacy and potentially de-escalate a confrontation.
Coming up on First, a redesigned scale wins top place for a Delaware high school. The project could help disabled people in the future. And 8 artists combined for one spectacular show at the Biggs Museum. Back again is Rob Torno with his monthly spin on issues around Delaware. Rob, always a pleasure.
Thanks.
You know, this cartoon is kind of funny. It's just a guy like you and me sitting next to Rockefeller over there saying, we pay the exact same taxes. Give me some context.
So Carney has to do something to fix this budget deficit, right? And part of that has to be tax increases. And he's done some good things. He's proposed eliminating the itemized deductions, which go primarily to wealthy earners, while increasing the standard deduction, which helps lower income earners. The problem is our tax code is just dumb, right? So technically speaking, the upper income tax bracket for most states and the federal government is usually a higher amount. You know, Maryland's $250,000, New Jersey is $500,000, in Delaware it's $60,000. So I think something like half the state earners earn $60,000. So that top tax rate is hitting a majority of people in the state. So if he were wanting to do something that was more progressive and actually harmed the economy less, he would propose multiple brackets, for a better term, to hit those higher income earners with a different rate than maybe someone who, is just a normal taxpayer.
Have you talked to the governor about it?
I'm getting bored even talking about it, but I think it's important. And I think one of the problems is people like you and I don't like taxes, right? And we don't want to hear about it. And it's hard to explain that in the way that makes sense. So it just never gets done. But it's something I think that would really be helpful, both for the economy and for this budget deficit that seems like a canyon.
And we'd hopefully get this budget deficit sort of handled so that we can just be done with it, right?
Right, and I mean, and this portion of it is only a small portion. I think it's something up to like $368 million now. This tax portion is really only about like 60, 70 million. So the majority of the money is going to come from other places anyway.
All right, good stuff, Rob. Thanks so
No
much.
sweat.
And send Rob your comments, questions, all of that at his Twitter at Rob Torno.
We've got quite a collection of First broadcasts online. Go to WHYY.org/first to check out this show when you want. Enjoy the show.
First person this week is Delaware Congresswoman Lisa Blunt Rochester. Welcome back to First.
Thank you so much. It's great to be back.
Yeah, it's always a pleasure to have you here. Now, you've officially been in office a little over 100 days. What is the state of Congress now for Democrats?
Well, I would say the state of Congress, the state of our country is very busy. That's probably the best word I could use. We have had some incredible situations come up, everything from tackling the Affordable Care Act and having conversations, and also even having a bill introduced to talking about, the potential and influence and the real influence of Russia in our elections in our country. And so it's a very important time, it's a very busy time, and it's also a time when we really are questioning, who are we? Where are we going as a country? And so it's a very important time, and I feel honored to be representing Delaware at this time.
I'm glad you brought up the Affordable Care Act. Many GOP congressional members have held town meetings in their districts. They've been met with a lot of people basically just pushing back on the health care law. Have you had any of those meetings?
Yeah, so we've had a couple of things. One, Senator Carper and I hosted a meeting at Christiana Care where we actually met with different folks from the community as well as, and it was actually held in an emergency room right here in Wilmington. And then there was a separate roundtable that included people, everybody from Lolita Lopez from our federally qualified health centers to a patient, Carrie Orr, who had been a beneficiary of the Affordable Care Act, and we actually had a roundtable discussion. And then we also had an open house in our office where people came in and told their stories. I think what's the most important thing is that even when I was campaigning, people talked about the importance and the need for health care, and it was one of the things that I even ran on was strengthening the Affordable Care Act, not throwing out the baby with the bathwater. And so our whole focus was, you know, let's really take a look at how this is going to impact Delaware. And I got a chance to even speak on the floor of the House about the actual impact on jobs. 9,000 jobs could have been impacted, 60,000 people on Medicaid, 38,000 people who have health care through their employer. So it was important that we make our case known for Delaware as well.
Oftentimes when you have those meetings in various settings, you get people pushing for things, supporting, talking against. It seems like when you watch cable news, it appears that the Democrats are always fighting with the Republicans or vice versa. I was just listening to the news this morning and Democrats said, hey, if President Trump does not show us those taxes, we're not going to support this tax reform. Are things really as crazy as it seems on cable news?
You know, it's interesting because I've been fortunate. We have our freshman class, there are about 50 of us, and in that class it's pretty much split, half Democrat, half Republican. And from the very beginning, we as a class said that we wanted to try to find common ground. And so we, even in one of our first meetings, had all the staff leave so that we could talk about areas that we have in common, like anybody who had a port, raise your hand. Anybody who's served in government or never served, raise your hand. And we even most recently, myself, 2 Republicans and another Democrat hosted our class at the Holocaust Museum to have a conversation, and it got into a conversation about immigration and immigration reform and where we might have some common beliefs and some common vision. So I think that what you see on TV is TV, but you know, as people, you know, folks sometimes maybe have the same vision, but just a different way of getting there.
Now, you are on the Agriculture and Education committees. There are some big votes coming up.
Right.
What's the latest with both committees?
Well, let me tell you, I am so excited about my committee assignments, and I'm glad you gave me a chance to share this with folks. We're going to be dealing with the Higher Education Reauthorization Bill, and I wanted to be on committees where things were going to get done, you know, for Delawareans and for the American people. So higher ed was important because people talked about the expense of college, and so college affordability, looking at workforce opportunities and skills and making sure we have a trained workforce is important. And then I fought to get on the Agriculture Committee because people don't even realize, number one, we've got more chickens than people in the state of Delaware.
Okay.
But we've got a lot of farmers, family farms, and it's $8 billion in economic activity, and it's also rural and urban. It's nutrition programs, it's SNAP, it's biotech, which I'm on the biotech and research subcommittee. So we get to deal with things like Dow DuPont. And we had a saying during the campaign, you know, when Lisa goes to Washington, we all go to Washington. So I tried to get on committees where we were all represented. And this coming year, we're doing the Farm Bill. That's a huge bill that is a lot of times, most times, done in a bipartisan way. So again, committees where there was some bipartisan activity and we can get stuff done.
Okay, awesome. Now, have you adjusted to your commute yet before we go?
So, well, you know, I'm doing what I call the Joe Biden hybrid.
Okay.
And I really, it's important because Congress is a little different than the Senate in terms of how often we go back and forth. For the past 6 weeks, we went 6 weeks straight and almost Monday through Friday because our Republican colleagues were really trying to cram some things in. So it's been hard to even just get back home to get things done, but I'm excited. I love the train, Amtrak. I love going back and forth. It's my time to actually work and decompress.
Okay, well, I love the train too. Thanks so much, Lisa Blunt Rochester, Congresswoman Lisa Blunt Rochester, the Democratic Congresswoman, always here in Delaware. It's always a pleasure. And if, for those of you at home, you can watch this interview in its entirety at newsworks.org/Delaware.
Congratulations are in order for the Concord High School's Source America Design Challenge team. The group's Waymaster interactive device beat out 160 teams from 26 states, making them the national champions for the second year in a row. What does the Waymaster do? Well, here's a little tease. It could help people with disabilities be productive members of the workforce of the future.
A buzz of power tools, hammers, and intense conversations fill the air as Concord High School engineering students work on their latest project.
They're very engaged, and it's unlike other classes where they're kind of stuck in their seat. They're up and around the room, they're excited, they're working together in teams to solve problems, and it's just an exciting atmosphere.
The mission set before them today is to build a go-kart that's driven by an electric drill.
So this is a level 2 class that you're seeing here, and in level 2 we start to kind of let that leash go a little bit and give them more access to just have free reign to solve bigger and better problems.
There are 4 levels of engineering classes offered at Concord. It starts with the basics, teaching students about safety, how to operate the tools and software. And then it moves on to more advanced lessons involving problem solving, design, build, and test. Once they've mastered those lessons, it's time to put them to the test.
And we wanted to solve an authentic real-world problem, so again, we just found this Sports America Design Challenge, and we met every Wednesday for about at least 2 hours a week.
The nationwide contest gives high school and college students the chance to create innovative technology for nonprofits that employ the disabled. The Concord team partnered with WHYY's by Maggie and Friends. The dog treat company, which operates out of the Elks Club in Wilmington, makes, bakes, and bags dog treats, which are sold in Delaware, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, and online.
My friend Lee Corrigan and I started WHYY's in 2007, and the reason that we started is because of the need for employment for persons with intellectual disabilities. We each have a daughter, both girls were 21. And so we needed a business that they would be able to have sustainable and meaningful work.
WHYY's success is growing, and that means more bags of treats. After working alongside the bakers, the students figured out how they could make their job better.
So what our device is, when we first went to WHYY's by Maggie and Friends, the nonprofit that we partnered with, we discovered that there was we could be able to help them with their one section of the job that is weighing the bones, making sure that they are the correct weight for process, like for packaging.
The students saw that Becky, one of the workers, was having difficulty accurately reading the weight of the treats, so they designed a scale that would make it easier for her.
So we came up with a device that will, with a scale, that will tell them whether it weighs too little, it's perfect weight, or it's too much.
Start weighing. Add more. Too much. That's good.
When we started doing this, when we first came up with the idea of doing a scale or something that would help them with weighing, we experimented with taking apart scales and trying to build our own so that we could make it as original as possible.
The team also made sure the new scale didn't replace the workers, but enhanced their job.
Not only is it profitable to the person that uses this technology, but it's also profitable to the business because it creates something that is efficient, accurate, and then very easy to use. It increases the enjoyability of the job.
The new scale is a big hit with Becky.
The scale has heightened our efficiency and the timeline for packaging. It is used very efficiently and quickly. Becky can weigh more bones probably than we can bag.
By the way, the team of 11 members met weekly after school to work on this project, and they beat out teams from Ohio, Kansas, and Connecticut. This was Concord's 3rd year making it to the finals. The school gets $6,000, the students split $8,000, and the folks at WHYY's by Maggie and Friends took home $8,000.
8 artists make up the consortium known as SIGN. They're celebrating their 25 years together with a big exhibit of their work at the Biggs Museum in Dover. Check it out and meet 2 of the artists in this week's First Experience.
I met SIGN about 3 years ago, and I found out that they were going to soon be celebrating 25 years as an organization, so I invited them to come do a show with us. We started the concept for the show in a series of studio visits. So each of the 8 artists, I went to visit their studios, spend a day with them, get a real good sense of not only just the work that they were submitting for the show, but sort of the body of work that they had around that. I guess I just sort of automatically assumed that there was some kind of shared experiences, some sort of shared vision amongst themselves, whether they knew it or not, whether they were acting upon it or not, that I thought would help unify the show. We just found a lot of different threads that seemed to weave between a lot of the different artists. It's almost as if some of them had started a story and others were finishing it.
It took us almost 2 years to come up with a name. One of our original members opened up a dictionary one night and she said, "What about this word, sign?" It's from Old Lang Syne and it means to come together. And we said, yes, that's our name.
In order to be a member, everybody has to agree to let you be a member, and they have to really love your work and respect your professionalism and your caring and your commitment, and you all have to be able to get along as well.
These started because I had about 6 compression fractures in my spine. While I was trying to do physical therapy for it, I started feeling trapped. So it's a play on the words. The rib cage was a cage, and they all have that sense of the figure being trapped in some way.
My husband passed away about 2 years ago, and I was there at his bedside in hospice when he passed away, and I was holding his hand, and the last things he did was breathe in and breathe out. And that pair of paintings, one is breathe in and one is breathe out, it did make me think about that whole concept of coming forward and pulling in and then pushing out. The oval is so important, and think about how integral to everybody's life the oval is.
We've been showing together a long time. We always want to keep showing. We want to keep putting our work out there. I hope that the viewer will see something of themselves in the work, wonder how it was done.
The importance for me here at the Biggs Museum, we always hope that this becomes an inspiration for other artists to do more of the work like this.
I think each of us has something to say. In each case, it is something quite different. It depends how long you look and what you bring to the work. The work really is not alive until somebody sees it or feels it. And hopefully they'll come away with something that is very meaningful to them. I think there's a lot here that is meaningful.
Mitch Lyons and Ken Mabry are both sign artists and have been featured before on First Experience. The exhibit is going on now through April 30th at the Biggs Museum in Dover. You can get more information by visiting biggsmuseum.org.
And next week on First, we look at redistricting. In past years, only policy wonks seemed to care about how legislative districts were drawn. Well, now more people are asking about the politics behind it. And First Experience visits a Wilmington elementary school for a first-hand look at the power of art education.
That is First for this week. As always, we thank you for watching. For Mark Eichman and Shirley Min, I'm Nichelle Polston. Have a great week.